Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're doing well. And if you're struggling, I hope you're doing okay. I'm at a point right now, and we talk about this a lot on the show, this balance between awesome and disaster. I've been lucky enough to have a pretty good run of awesome right now. I'm currently in the middle of recording a bunch of different interviews for the show, and you're going to have all of those available to you shortly. So if you haven't subscribed on iTunes or added us to your favorites list on Stitcher, now would be a great time to do that. And I finally created a Twitter account for the podcast. You can follow at AwesomeDPod on Twitter, and you can, of course, follow me at Comic Will Carey. I'll have updates for you as soon as I am ready to let you know about them. On the show today, comedian and writer Ashley Bez. Ashley's one of the first comedians I actually tried to get on the show when I first started it, and we would text back and forth. This was easily, I guess it's almost 2 or 3 years ago now at this point, and we just could never quite set it up. Like, our schedules never quite worked out, but we were finally able to get a day, and she's on her way now. So I'm interested to see what this conversation will be like, and I know she's very funny. She previously did my show. You can use that, and I'm interested what else is going on. Because lots of people I know in comedy, I know them, but I don't keep up with every detail of their life. So I'm interested to see what she's been up to in the 2 years since I last tried to get her to do my show. But she's here now, and I'm excited to share this with you. So thank you guys again for listening, and let's see. I'll talk to you afterwards. Let's go to my chat with Ashley Bez. The more gravitas I bring to the proceedings.
I think probably the guests as well.
Yeah,
Like,
I would think so, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so great. I love this guy. This is like.
Oh yeah, this thing is great.
Mm-hmm.
This is all you need. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can make TV with that.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an
amazing.
incredible little bit of gadget. I may get an H6 someday, but this does everything I need it to do.
Sounds good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know it super well. That's just 6 inputs instead of.
I think it's four compared to 2 on this.
Oh, 4 compared to 2. Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't seen you in what is it, 3? I feel like it's 3 or 5 years.
3 or 5, definitely not 2 or 4. It's
Yeah,
3
it's
or
an
5.
odd number.
Yeah.
I feel.
I feel like it was when the last time we saw each other was when we were starting. Was when you were like, oh, you should do my podcast.
Yep, I think that's about right. So I guess that's a little over 3 years ago. Yeah. Well, you're tough to nail down because you're doing so many awesome things. I did my research. I checked your website out.
Oh my God, my website needs to be updated first of all. But
I'm completely redoing mine. I'm going to make it podcast centric instead of more podcast centric, and then
Okay.
and then also I do stand up because I'm really putting a lot of effort into getting this popular.
Awesome.
Because I don't know why, but I found that I have a skill set for just talking to people, which is I cannot do in my regular life.
Only if it's being recorded.
Yeah. Do you find that? I feel like it's kind of a trope that comedians are like, oh, you talk and you make people laugh, but you can't talk to people in everyday life. Is that true for you, or not so much?
I think I'm pretty good, but there is something about when it is being recorded that I'm pretty good with asking questions and and talking a little bit more. I had a dating podcast for about half a year.
Oh, yeah?
It was a radio show, but it was recorded, so I called it a podcast.
Oh yeah.
And I interviewed my mom for it, and she told me the story of how her and my dad met, and as soon as it was all right, thanks so much for being on here, Mom. And she goes, you got me to say things I would never say. How'd you do that?
I know.
I was it's called being good at interviewing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like that. One trick I learned, I think it was from Asif Manvi's episode of WTF, because you remember how he basically ruined some politician's career. He was interviewing him for The Daily Show, and the thing that stuck with me is, you don't say anything back, and the other person's kind of will sometimes feel compelled to fill the space. Mm-hmm. And so he didn't say anything, and he just started saying like some crazy shit back when that would get you just you'd have to resign for stuff. And at one point I remember him saying, just going, we can hear you, right? That was my...
The person interviewing said that at Daily Show.
Yeah.
It was like, we can hear you.
Yeah, Asif Manvi was like, we can hear you, right?
Oh my God.
I thought that was spectacular.
This is back funny. When I don't remember. I definitely didn't see that, but that is hilarious.
Yeah. I want to talk about TV a little bit, but I'm kind of interested because you're in that category of people that I know from comedy but know nothing about. So
I feel like that's like everyone in comedy. It's like, I know you, but I don't actually. Do I know you? Like, who are you as a person?
Right.
That definitely happens.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like where do you come from? Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Oh, outside of Philadelphia. Cool. Yeah. How was that for you?
It was fun. It was so suburban.
Uh-huh.
I feel like I can go anywhere, like almost anywhere else in the country. I'm like, oh, perfect, strip malls up at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
that's kind of...
there's a Marshalls, there's an Applebee's. Great, that's all I need.
Oh yeah, that's kind of how I feel about where I'm from. Like, and I feel like suburban Pennsylvania, of all the suburban places, is like very suburban. Like, given my experience,
so it really is. Like, they have more cookie cutter neighborhoods than I've ever seen. There's like the suburban sprawl. I mean, it all does stem from the white flight out of Philadelphia.
Right.
And then just going into all these like cookie cutter houses, and then the schools were really good, and then the real estate prices went up, and like there's just so much demand, and there was so much farmland to sell off and turn into like a 70 home neighborhoods.
Yeah, just like tons of space. Like let's design one house. Okay, let's just repeat that a bunch of times, and then put a for sale sign.
It's so funny. They're like, okay, you do whatever you want to this house. Choose from 3 colors of stucco, stoned, brick. The end. Like, dozens of possibilities. You're like, there's 4 possibilities. Calm down. Like, these things all look the same.
Oh yeah. Like my house growing up wasn't one of those houses, but a lot of my friends' houses were, and there's just sort of like a sterile quality to it. Like I would be afraid to touch anything or sit on the couch.
That's definitely when it's new, and definitely like the type of person. Like, no one was afraid to sit on our couches. Like, I have 3 sisters, so like we tore that place up pretty fast.
Uh-huh. You had 3 sisters, so so 4 children in the house.
4 kids. Yeah.
Okay. So how did your parents manage that? Because I was an only child, and I was a terror to my parents.
Oh my God, you were an only child.
Yes.
I have a lot of friends who are only children. Like, I think that they like it's like even hanging out with one person, if you have lots of siblings, there's like a lot more. It's like you're hanging out with multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's weird. I definitely have a lot of only children friends.
That's interesting.
They we had to get lots of nannies and babysitters.
Mm-hmm.
If my parents went out, like it was a 2 babysitter ordeal for sure.
Oh yeah.
Because we were all very
divide
close
and
in
conquer.
Age. Yeah. And then we were just horrendous.
Uh-huh.
Oh God, we were terrors when we went out to eat. Like, we would never go out to eat. And then when we did, there's just like sugar packets like strewn across the table, and like like half of us weren't even at the table. It was very
right. You're like in the kitchen somehow.
Yeah,
like
we were a lot. So someone's like crawling under a table, like barking. I don't know.
And what did your folks do?
They my dad is an accountant, and my mom's an actuary.
And an actuary is?
It's like a
lawyer?
It's actually like an accountant.
Like an accountant.
They calculate. They basically do calculus for insurance companies to figure out how much insurance to give people.
I see. Interesting.
So my mom is on the side of like like feeding numbers into formulas and like solving those types of things.
Gotcha. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, if you had had this accident 2 blocks over,
Yeah.
would have been $700 more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like she's not even necessarily like seeing the cases. Like she's not seeing like what happened and who's getting money and how much it is. Like she's more just like doing like probabilities, things like that. It's like before the accident happens.
Gotcha.
That's what.
Yeah,
That's what she's doing.
that kind of stuff I find interesting because it has to take these what are seemingly to someone like me maybe more empirical things like or like people who do life insurance, like you you're determining the life of like a human.
Yeah.
I remember this thing on This American Life where they talked to someone whose job is to decide that, and he was like single, and he was like, oh, how do I get my numbers up? Well, you got to marry that girlfriend, man. That'll get your numbers up.
Oh my God.
That kind of stuff I find so bizarre. So being like one of 4 girls, and are you the oldest, youngest?
So I'm number 2 of 4.
Two of 4.
So I
okay,
have one
so
older
second
and
oldest.
2 younger.
Gotcha. So I'm curious what kind of kid you are, because like I know you're a comedian, so I have my own assumptions, but you also wear a lot of bright colors.
Yeah, a lot of the clothing, like bright colors and just like wearing, more interesting styles, it comes from when I was little. All of my clothes were hand-me-downs from my older sister.
Yeah.
Sometimes like they had been hand-me-downs from this neighbor that we had, and then my younger
There you go.
sister she became taller than me. When I think she was 3 and I was 5, something like really young. So then I was getting hand-me-downs from my older sister and my younger sister. So I was like, the moment I could get my own clothes, I was like, I'm going crazy.
yeah, because you're just wearing this mishmash of 2 other people's preferences.
And even that, just like, and I'd get like one new outfit a year, and it was my favorite thing, and otherwise it was just other people's clothes until I could babysit and buy my own. But that's definitely how it started. And then I also I have definitely suffered a lot with depression, and it is a lot harder to be depressed if like you look down at your own clothes and see actual like color. So it's like my own way of tricking myself in. It's like I'm doing The Secret with my outfit to make myself not have depression.
Right. You didn't go the like typical depression route, just do all black.
All black. I mean, I get how that's easier for sure. Like if you just have like black and denim in your whole closet, like you do not have to think about what you put on.
For me at least, I was kind of a heavy set kid, and I found black slimming, and also like when I got into like music and like and playing guitar and stuff, I was like wearing black is like rock and roll colors. So
absolutely,
I definitely wanted to be that. Because my depression manifested itself, and I've never been formally diagnosed, but it manifested more in. Because I heard someone say that depression usually manifests itself as either sadness or anger.
That is correct.
And mine definitely manifested itself into a lot of like tearful, shimmery acoustic songs in my high school years.
Were you in a band in high school?
In high school and in college, yeah. And my college band's name was called Edge of Memory.
Oh my God, that is beautiful.
It's good, perfect, like emo-y kind of name.
Oh, it's like perfect. I can like see you guys just like, emo, just being mopey and like being so into your music. Oh, I love it. That's amazing.
That was definitely me. I took a lot of visual cues from Billy Joe Armstrong during like the American Idiot.
Yes,
the like
I
American
love it.
Idiot era.
Perfect. Did you dye your hair black ever?
A couple of times.
Yes!
I also did in high school. I would do green and black stripes to match the school colors, and
I love it.
I don't think I ever put eyeliner on for a concert, but I definitely I think I did it at least once, like at Halloween or something, and it was
right. You're
I'm into this look.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like I could make this work.
I think I'm gonna keep doing this. Did you ever wear eyeliner just then? You never dabbled in it like to go to school or anything?
No, I never really looked the part at school. It was always like out of school. I was always more preoccupied with just following the rules, because it's just got beaten into me, because my mom was also a teacher at the elementary school I went to, so I always just have the fear of God like just like rammed into me from a young age.
Yeah.
I'm so like, were you sad as I'm curious, like, were you sad as a kid, or did that happen?
Sad were you?
Or did that happen later? Because I feel like for me, I don't know if this is for you. There was like a general malaise when I was like maybe 14 or 15, but didn't like set in hardcore until I was older.
Yeah, I stayed busy. My parents had us doing like so many sports, so many activities, that I didn't really have a ton of time to be sad. Like as a kid and as a teenager, I definitely am like hyper emotional and very empathetic. So like if someone else is upset, I would cry. I also cry at like the drop of a hat. Like I'm very emotional, but I didn't like truly get depressed until I was a little older. And even that was from, which I learned later, which I was on for a decade, was birth control.
Really?
Made me very depressed.
Interesting.
And it was when I stopped taking birth control that so I'd been on it for 10 years and I stopped taking it. And then that's when I sort of like had a little bit more clarity and started doing comedy.
Interesting. So
like I wanted to do it before. I'd done like a couple I think I did like 3 or 4 open mics in like 2 years. Like I was like barely putting my toe in the water. And then when I stopped taking birth control, like the world became just like a little bit more clear, and I had a little more confidence, and I was definitely less depressed.
Interesting. So is that caused, as you might imagine, I don't have a ton of knowledge with how birth control affects a woman's body, but
yeah, it's different. Well, it's different for everyone.
Does it affect like your what's the happy drug that your brain creates? Not
serotonin.
Yeah. Does it affect that?
I don't know the like exact science behind it. I just know what it did to me.
Wow.
And then I read about it and what what experiences other people have. Like some people are totally fine. Like my little sister, totally fine. Whether she's on it, whether she's off it, it's just does she want to have another kid or not, like type of thing.
Right.
But like, for me and my older sister, we were like, it kind of like made us a little bit more closed off to the world. And I was diagnosed with depression while I was on it, and I was diagnosed with mild depression once I was off it. So it's like something that's there, and whatever the hormones are, just really reacted with me. I have like, if you ever listen to the end of any drug commercial that says like the side effects, I always get the side effects of everything.
Oh, wow.
So that's why if I could not be on medicine, I won't be, because I'll have whatever the side effects are. Yeah.
That's so funny you bring that up. I just took a voiceover class, and they went over how there was a lawsuit that reads that you have to read the side effects at a slow enough pace in TV commercials so that people can hear them.
Can actually hear them, because some people can speak so quickly. That is a crazy gift.
Oh yeah,
there's like people that are like, you're like, oh my god, how's that thing?
Yeah. Well, you remember the old Micro Machines commercials? That guy.
Oh my god.
That guy. I want to
like. Oh my god, how did they do that? That was insane.
I have no idea. I saw a video of that guy doing all the lyrics to Michael Jackson's "Beat It," and like they slow it down, and he's actually enunciating everything.
It's so crazy.
I have no idea how he does it, because my brain can't work that fast. But
no, I think so. Different people do experience time differently. I read about like these kids who their reaction times are really fast, and there's this one girl who could like catch and throw a baseball, and like her perception of time, like she's literally moving like something small, like 7% faster than like the average person. Like she just can perceive things, and like she just is, and it reminds me of that Speedy X-Men dude, silver guy, like where it's like to him it's fine, like he can just like you perceive time. So there is like people do have that.
Yeah,
I'm definitely on the slower side. Like it like takes me a second to like figure out what's going on and like react.
Yeah, mine is I perceive everything kind of quickly, but like one time this happened to me. I was in a car accident a few years ago, and everything got very slow while it was happening, and then everything sped up once.
Oh, weird.
Once the accident had stopped happening.
Weird. It was like a time. It was like a time whip. Like you know what I mean? Like it got like really slow, like going around, and then like you know what I mean? Like when you when you like have something and like it gets to the top and it's really slow. Like that's what it reminds me of. You know.
Yeah.
So like as it was happening, it's like you saw everything. Oh, that's so crazy.
Yeah. Or do you remember the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man where those bullies confront him, and because his spider senses, he can suddenly like just dodge or like just casually step out of the way
it's
of
like
a punch.
he's right. It's like he's trying to figure. He's like, oh, I'm doing this. Yeah.
Yeah. That would
there are people that have that in like in a lesser way that can truly like perceive things and like they end up doing like I bet that Micro Machines guy can do that. He speaks so quickly because to him it's not as fast.
Yeah.
Or like pitchers and like a lot of people who just like are moving like so quickly.
Oh my gosh! I can imagine that would be a very useful trait to have if you were like a football quarterback.
I think a lot of like very good athletes have it. It would make sense. Like I don't know if they've all been tested, but the child she was like 7 or something and could like catch. She could like catch and throw a ball like so quickly.
Wow.
They were like, what is like they like invest. It was like investigated. It was like years ago that I read this article, but it's like really interesting that people have that they do move faster.
That kind of stuff. Those sort of like physical and mental anomalies, I find so interesting. Even this is a very odd jump to make, but I swear it's related. Just thinking of like physical tolerance for pain or physical tolerance for like I don't know spicy food. Have you heard of this? Have you heard this YouTube channel called Hot Ones?
No.
I
don't know any YouTube channels.
It's totally cool because I'm going to tell you about it.
Great.
It's this interview series where this guy interviews celebrities while they eat increasingly spicy chicken wings, and they get up to like absolute nuclear levels of like caution, like you sign a waiver kind of hot. And the funny part of it is that he's asking these really deep questions, and as it gets spicier and spicier, not only are people like sniffling and coughing, but it kind of strips away like any artifice, like, and people get really open. But
it's like being drunk almost.
Kind of, or like you start like hallucinating a little bit. But one of my favorite ones is the one that Dax Shepard did, and I don't know what's going on with him, but he ate like the absolute hottest one and didn't react at all. And then he had the crew bring him another one, and he poured a bunch on it and ate it again and was like licking his fingers. It's like, oh yeah, this is nice.
Oh my God. He must have like a very high spice or pain tolerance, or he like ate a bunch of spicy food.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the joke he said was like, I'm worried that there's something medically wrong with me.
Yeah, probably. Is Dax Shepard sober?
I think so.
Because I wonder, this is like, I'm just assuming or like making a jump. Like, I don't even know what kind of drugs he did, but I wonder if there's something that like is numb because of that. Is that a thing?
I would imagine so.
I don't know. I'm not trying to like. If he's not sober, then I feel bad for even saying that. But I feel like he may be, and if he is, then maybe there's a connection between those things. If not, I am very sorry to Dax Shepard.
Right. Well, I can, if I ever get Artie Lang on, I'll ask him.
Oh my God, Artie!
That poor guy. I really hope something sticks and sticks soon, because I'm afraid he's gonna die.
I know, me too. I think he is afraid he's going to die also.
Yeah. Well,
that's like such a strong addiction that like your face is collapsed and you're still like, I need to do drugs.
Well, another thing I read is part of what caused that collapse is one time while he was trying to, I don't know, snort crushed up prescription drugs or coke, but he accidentally snorted glass.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So his nose is like jacked, but he's got a good sense of humor about it still. That's why it's not sad yet.
His like writing ability as a comedian is really incredible. So like, of course he has a sense of humor about it, but like,
yeah,
I am so worried for that man.
I know, but that's like the level of comedian that I like aspire to operate on, where even like when I'm really fucked up and like terrible things are happening to me, that I'm still I'm still funny about it, because I haven't been to the comic strip in a long time, but I used to go up there and say some jokes that would just make the crowd awe and sympathy, and that's not what I'm trying to do.
I know, you're like, oh damn it, that's not. I remember, and that was like a couple years ago. You said that you that you would get the sympathy awe.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually more like a new comedian thing. It's not even necessarily what the joke is. It's like the way it's delivered. Because I had jokes that I would tell when I was new. And I was like, I know it's a good joke. Why are people saying, oh, like, why are they feeling bad for me? I'm like, it's supposed to, and then like, and I was like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off. And I would tell it a couple years later and people would laugh because I was more confident on stage telling it.
Right.
And
it
so
didn't
like the
feel
evolution of the joke, I was like, no, that's a good joke. Like, I don't believe you guys. That's a good joke. And then I told it again. I was like, oh, I need to be better at things. I need to be better on stage and like more comfortable. So
those kind of those sort of hard to measure qualities of just like confidence and just the way you look and are standing on stage.
Yeah.
So you get off you get off birth control, and that's when you start doing stand up.
That was when I started doing stand up. There were like a couple things that contributed to it. It was like,
were you going to be a stand up while you were on birth control, or was that not even a thought at all?
I mean, I wanted to do comedy in like some capacity.
Okay.
I used Twitter like from almost the beginning of Twitter, like as a joke outlet, and like before I did comedy.
Yeah.
And like comedians followed me, so I was like, I guess I'm good at this. But I was just very nervous to like actually do it on stage.
So you were writing
so
jokes
I was writing,
on Twitter
and
before.
I'd submitted to write for a couple shows just through people that I knew from Twitter that were like working on those shows. So I was like, I want to be a TV writer. So like I submitted to write for
And this is when you were still in Philly? Or
no, I was in New York. I went to school in New York, so I've been in New York since I was like 18.
Okay, so
I was like working in the music industry, but like, but like writing jokes on Twitter, and I was like, I want to be a TV writer. I have no idea what that means.
And people would reach out to you to submit to TV shows via Twitter.
Correct.
That's the story that.
But I never got any of them. That story would be a lot better if it was like, and that's why I'm famous now.
So. Okay. So you moved to New York when you were 18, and you were working in the music industry. What was that job?
I was always just like an assistant in the music industry. I never, and I liked being like tangentially, related to the arts and to music.
Okay.
And it was fine, but then I was like, I'm not making any money, and if I'm just going to be an assistant, I'm going to go do it in finance, where I will make lots of money.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
And then I did it for 10 months and my brain broke, and then I like was doing comedy after that.
Right. It's a good, comedy is like a good stop before like completely like, it's like a good first stop before rehab.
Yeah. I was like, if I pull one more 70-hour week, I'm going to lose my mind. And
my God.
And then I quit.
Yeah. But you do kind of strike me as like a music savvy person. Like when you were just imagining what my band was like when I described how I dressed, I could totally imagine like if we went to high school together, you'd be like the best friend of my band.
Yeah, amazing.
And I mean that as a compliment.
Thank you. I would be. That's the nicest way of saying groupie to a high school band.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean
like,
groupie. I'm just nothing sexual about it at all. Just like just because I needed I needed friends when I was in high school more than I needed.
Will you retroactively be my high school friend?
I have that. I've had that with several. Like I had that with Adam Sank when he was in here. I was like, we would have been friends in high school. I think I was bullied too. Okay, so your brain breaks,
and then I was like, let's do. And there were a bunch of things that happened. I was like, I like felt more confident and like less depressed because I'm not like taking hormones every day. I leave this like job that was so draining that no amount, and I was like, oh, money doesn't cause happiness.
Right. And is the getting off birth control, is that a like throw it in the trash can moment, or is that your doctor saying maybe you should try this?
I sort of did it on my own. I like I honestly forget exactly why I stopped, because I don't remember. Some part of me was like, I think I need to like see if this is why I'm not happy.
Yeah, going down the list like that first, and then I'll try knocking out gluten next.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I actually just I knew that gluten made me happy, so I was just eating spoonfuls of gluten back when gluten allergies were, the hot new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a bunch of. It was definitely like a bunch of contributing factors that all lined up, and I was like, great, I'm gonna do stand up now.
And you started in New York.
I started in New York, which was hard.
This is what I feel. I was talking to John
hard.
John Rosenberger, about starting in New York, and I feel like people who start in New York have no concept that like open mics in other parts of the country are like great shows. Like the best one
That's what I've heard.
The best 1 in a million show you can have. A lot of them are not in major cities. I don't know about Chicago. I would love to do more shows in Chicago because I like being there. Free refills in restaurants. It's a crazy concept. New York hasn't heard about it yet.
But free refills, I don't think I get any like for beer and like tequila soda, or just
not for cocktails, but I feel like even drinks in Chicago are cheaper than New York. But what I'm trying to think what my original question is, but and then I want to know about where the places you were hitting and the people you were meeting early on, also, because you've been. How long have you been doing comedy?
I have been trying to figure out the answer to that. I think I started in 2014, 2013. Somewhere around there. It was like 2013, 2014 was when I like started doing open mics.
Okay, so we're at about like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's a lot. You're very accomplished for 5, 6 years in, I think.
Or 20. Oh, no. Okay, because I know when I cut my hair. I think I think it was definitely 2013.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and but to give you kind of an idea, I started at a Damon's Bar and Grill, which is a chain like typical bar food kind of restaurant, but it had a comedy open mic on Sundays. That's how I started doing comedy.
What town?
In the suburbs of Baltimore. The actual town was called Hunt Valley. It was in a big strip. It was not in a strip mall, but it was in a shopping center anchored by a Best Buy.
Perfect.
So that's how I started, and it was actually pretty nice way to start. There was usually crowd. The only times it was rough is the show was on Sundays, and they would not turn off the TVs for the Ravens games. So those were tough nights.
Amazing. So your entry into comedy was competing with a sports game.
Yes, and Amazing. It was at a time when I was doing I was very deadpan on stage, and I was doing kind of absurdist one-liners, like the kind of thing that you kind of have to listen to follow and then laugh at. So it was a baptism by fire, but I was just happy to have found my thing.
Right.
So where were you going in New York when you started comedy?
I was going to Beauty Bar on Tuesdays, which I still go to. I absolutely love that mic. Because audience comes in from the bar, and the host lets me do like pretty much as much time as I want. It's amazing. So for an open mic, like it's wonderful. But that was where I first started, and then I would go to this place in the West Village I think it was on 12th Street or 9th Street. It was like a coffee shop.
Okay.
And I would go to that one, and those were like the only two. I would like occasionally go to one at like New York Comedy Club at 5 p.m. or like Eastville. And it was terrifying because it was like just like a pack of dudes that knew each other and laughed at each other, and I would go up dead last and be like, wait, what is why is there no one in here anymore? This is terrible. And then I would like tell my jokes and like no, like the host would even be barely listening, and I was like, what is this? Like the first and I got I booked my first comedy show. Like I did a 10-minute set before I ever did an open mic. So like I had done shows because people booked me from Twitter.
Yeah.
And then And then they were like, "Oh, you're just like reading one-liners off a page," because I like did not actually have a set. They're like, "Okay, you need to learn how to do stand-up."
Right.
Actually, George Gordon was like great. Like I met him one of the first times I ever did comedy.
Oh, really? I've had him on. He's great.
He's wonderful, and like he was not like wasn't mean to me. He's like, "That was really funny." Like how much have you done it? And he just like encouraged me to like go to open mics. Was his like nice way of being like, you need to fix your comedy set.
Yeah. Totally. Like fill in the jokes with like
anything.
Yeah.
Just not looking at your paper. So that was good. And then I think like when I went to like Pine Box mic for the first time on Wednesday.
Oh yes.
And I'd already been doing it for like 3 years, and I went there and I was like, oh, these are people I need to know. Like, this is great. And then the Creek and Cave was like wonderful for actually meeting people and making friends. And I haven't been back there. I only go back there when I'm booked on a show. I haven't done the mic there in like forever.
Yeah. Yeah, you did my show there a while back. I
that was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't done... I go and I do Mike Mercadal's open mic podcast called I think it's a Zeros on Heroes is the live version. So I go to that because it's fun. But I was there. For the first 3 years in New York, I feel like I was at the Creek just hoping someone would talk to me, and
perfect.
No one ever did.
So someone would make friends with your band.
Yeah, or just friends with me.
Yeah.
Or like just tell me like, hey, tell me something positive. And the other place I would go is, did you ever?
Well, tell me something.
Did you ever go to the Woodshed mic on Saturdays?
At Creek and Cave?
No, it wasn't at the Creek. I think it was at Legion Bar is what it was called. But I was going there when it was hosted by Dan St. Germain and Mike Lawrence, and that was a nice, another good baptism by fire for comedy in New York City.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but Mike said something nice when he introduced me, like my third time there, and that was like a good, like I kept going on that.
You're
for
like,
a little
good.
while.
I'm gonna Oh my god, it's like the littlest things that you're like, okay, I'm gonna keep it. Oh, they laughed at that. Okay, I'm gonna don't give up. Okay, keep doing comedy.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, yeah.
And then the best thing was for about a year and a half or 2 years, I hosted a mic with Christy Coffee at Revision Lounge, and it was amazing. And it was Thursday nights at 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had like minimum like 45 people a night.
Oh wow.
And like most like we'd get 60 people. Like it was amazing. And then we had like the 1 year anniversary mic. Mm-hmm. Which is insane because it was a mic, but like we bought a piñata and we decorated everything, and like it was like an insane party just for the 1 year anniversary of a mic, and I think like easily 150 people came. That's
wild.
It was so great, and I loved like having a weekly, like it was the closest thing to having a popular weekly show, but it was a mic.
Yeah.
And people like, I remember people being like, "Oh my god, I'm so afraid to like go there. Like, so many people are gonna see me go up." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a point. Like, everyone's gonna see you."
Yeah, that's good.
It was such a fun one.
That's cool. How is Christy doing? I haven't seen her in a long time.
She's in LA, so that's
that would be the reason why.
I haven't seen her. She produces a show.
Nice.
She hosts a podcast, and I saw on her like Instagram story like, should I do stand up again? She's so good. Like she's so comfortable on stage that like it's like crazy that she ever stopped doing stand up to me because like she's such a natural. So I hope she does it again.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen her since she moved to LA.
Yeah. I've thought about this recently as well. Like it's this kind of like weird thing. Not only do I feel like sometimes I feel like a ghost from the 1800s walking around New York because so many of my favorite places have changed businesses so many different times.
You're like, I know what this used to be.
Yeah, like I used to be the door guy at the Laughing Devil, which became a different comedy club and is now nothing right now.
Oh, the Laughing Devil isn't there anymore?
No, it was bought by the owners of the Stand.
The Stand. And what did they call it then?
They called it the Standing Room, and
the Standing Room.
And the Standing Room closed a while ago. Like I was walking down.
Oh my God, I didn't even know.
Yeah, I had no idea either.
The last 2 shows I was booked on there got canceled because no one was in the audience.
Oh
so
yeah,
that makes sense that they closed that club.
I could see that. The only time I've been there, I went to. I think I went to hang out and one night, and I had a drink that was. They started doing crazy mixology drinks. Like the drink they served me was in a light bulb.
Was it like the last ditch effort, like to try to get people to come somewhere?
I don't know. I was there with Katie Hannigan and Corinne Fisher. They co-hosted the show. I can't remember what the name of it was, but you couldn't do any material about dating or relationships or sex.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Which got people very mad for some some reason, which I thought was stupid. But that show was packed out. But I guess I feel like I don't know why it didn't work, but
those kitschy shows are interesting. Like I like the idea of having like, oh, you have to, like, you can't talk about this, you have to talk about this, but like in the end, like a stand-up show is a stand-up show. Like just book people and do stand-up.
Yeah. Well, there's so much stand-up in New York from, I guess, an audience member's perspective and because my show at the Creek had like a fun gimmick also, but that was my way of, I wanted to do a stand-up show, but I also wanted kind of like an interesting thing. And then I didn't even mean to like chat with people on stage before their set, but that just kind of naturally started happening.
Which is like amazing.
Yeah. And I think that's why part of why I've started like loving the podcast so much is because like I would do like a little mini podcast with people and then they would do a set on my show.
Right.
So I remember having fun with that part of it. So one thing I also want to ask you about. So you're in New York. You're grinding it out at the mics like we all do.
We all do.
So how does the TV Land job happen?
So I was at NYU. I was in an a cappella group with a bunch of...
You're in an a cappella group.
I was in an a cappella group.
I did not know that about you.
Yeah, with a bunch of wonderful people, and one of them was Elliot Glazer. And he was a writer for the TV Land show. And he was like, oh, we're looking for for New York women to do punch-ups. And so they sent me a script, and I submitted it. And they were like, great, we love your punch-ups. And then I did three seasons with them.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so tell me about the seasons. The show's called Younger, right?
The show is called Younger.
So were you a staff writer or punch-up writer?
I was a punch-up writer, so I was still a consultant.
Okay. So basically the script and punch-up is basically, can you tell me a little bit about what punch-up is? All
they do is send you a script and you write jokes.
Oh yeah, so you're not making edits to the script.
Sometimes. Okay, so sometimes I would the first couple scripts I only made edits, and then because I was giving them the punch ups like the week before they shot it, I would watch it and I would see what they used of my stuff, and then I was like, you know what, this is weird, and like there was especially a writer who was just like very out of touch with not only like people who live in Brooklyn but like people. So I was like, how are you a TV writer? Like, you don't know how to write dialogue. So this one particular writer, I would end up doing so many punch-ups for, but also just dialogue changes. I was like, I go to open mics. Like, I know how men in their 20s in Brooklyn talk. Like, this is not the way they talk. So I would change a lot of the dialogue for the one character that he's like a tattoo artist and is like mid to late 20s, and and then I would watch the show and I was like, oh, they're taking my stuff that's not even jokes, like they're changing the dialogue because it sounds more like the way a young person talks. So I started doing that with a lot of things, and I would I would just change a lot more, and like the person reading it, I think there would be one person that would do like the preliminary like read through of what everyone submitted, and so I wouldn't I wasn't changing like tons of stuff, but like I think they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then once they know the kind of things that you submit, they're like, oh yeah, like I know that works better. So they took a lot of like just dialogue changes, like this is how people talk type thing.
Yeah, kind of like more like vernacular things, or just like I'm imagining like because it's part of why I like John Mulaney's stand up is because some of the words he uses I don't think people from this era really use all that often, so it makes me laugh. So is a lot of like that is not how we talk in 2014.
Yeah. Exactly. Like we need to update.
Yeah.
People. We need to update the dialogue to make more sense.
Oh, that's hysterical. And so right now are you still like pushing for like I'm gonna be like I want to write for late night, or I want to write be a staff writer on a show, or like write scripts? Because I know you've done some web series stuff, so I'm curious what is your interest in as far as where you want to go with writing next.
So I submit to like as many late night shows as I can get my grubby mitts on without representation.
And is that just comes from like people that?
Yeah, it's like friends that have representation, or there's a guy who has sent me stuff that he's not even a comedy writer himself, but I don't know how he gets them, but like he sends it to me and is like, don't share this, and I'm like, okay, and thank you. So I've submitted to a couple things this year that I always feel like lucky to even get them.
Yeah.
But I've also, so since I made my web series and we tried to pitch it to like the Just for Laughs has like a web series portion. I've pitched a couple things to them and I haven't gotten in yet, obviously.
Right.
But I took like a pilot writing class and I wrote a pilot last year. Nice. I submitted to a couple places and I got to the second round of a couple festivals.
Cool.
And that was like my first, real pilot. So I'm writing another pilot now and I'm going to submit to some of the same festivals this year.
Excellent.
So that's I'm kind of doing like a 3-pronged approach right now with like stand-up, late night writing, and TV writing.
Excellent. That's kind of where I'm at as well. I'm like podcasting, stand-up, theatrical one-man show are my 3 prongs right now.
When is your theatrical one-man show?
I've done it a couple times, but I'm doing it again. I'm doing it twice next week and then again the week after.
Okay.
It was originally called Laughing Through the Sad, but I think I'm going to change the name to Fighting My Wiring, because that's kind of more...
Oh, I like that a lot.
Yeah, because I feel that's more in tune with what is actually going on with me.
Right. No, now. I mean, Laughing Through the Sad, I love it. I think that's a great name. But the nuance of fighting through my wiring, or fighting with?
Fighting my wiring.
Fighting my wiring.
Yeah.
And it's just 3 words.
Yeah, I like that.
That's good. Mm-hmm. And then it's also has to do with what you're doing. Yeah, that's a really good name.
Thank you. I that is the validation I need to keep us.
Where is it going up next week?
Next week I'm doing it at Pete's Candy Store on Monday.
Okay.
And then I'm doing it at Branded Saloon in Brooklyn, in Prospect Heights on Friday. And then I'm going to do it at Pete's Candy Store again on the 18th on Monday.
Oh, cool. Great.
So that show is, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot, because I like storytelling shows, like, like Jake Hart's Mike, or the Risk podcast.
Right.
Or Mike Birbiglia is like a big inspiration for me as far as that goes. But I don't like referring to it as a one-man show, because I feel like one-man show, that phrase instantly puts like a very specific thing in a lot of people's minds. That's
it does for sure.
The sort of like small black box theater, and then I'm wearing all black and I'm imitating like my dad, a conversation me and my dad had when I was 6. Which there's plenty of that, but
right. Oh my god.
So
good.
Yeah. So I call it like a solo storytelling show.
Okay.
It's like a core of like 7 or 8 stories that I would develop at storytelling mics, and then I'm working on the narrative. And again, it's all things that have happened to me that dictate my behavior now, and how it is all these survival instincts, now that I don't need them as much, are kind of fuck up my life in a lot of places.
Oh my God, that's great.
Which is, again, where I'm at now, instead of just like, oh, tears of a clown kind of shit.
Uh-huh.
So that's my three-pronged approach. I wanted to ask you, what were some of the things you learned in the pilot writing class?
A big thing I learned was actually how to put together like a pitch doc, and make it a deck, like adding images and stuff, and doing it before you write the pilot. So like I write out your characters, write out the arc of what they're going to do the whole season, how the relationships with each other are going to change the whole season,
right?
The storylines, through lines, and what like a couple episode ideas could be. So that. And writing that out first, like before, and then writing the outline of the pilot, and then writing the pilot. So like the method was very, very helpful. And now that's how I did it for the second one too. It's like I imagine you're not like, if you're writing a pilot, like if you know it's going to happen in the whole first season, it will help so much and inform your characters and the way they speak and we watched like a lot of pilots, and she encouraged us to watch a lot of pilots that we like. And you're like, and you see how fast you know what that character is, like through just a couple lines of dialogue and like one other thing. And that happens from like really planning and really writing out what this character is going to do for an entire season. And then you know them, and then you can add little quirky things they do that then like inform their character to the audience. So that helped so much. And just like format, like the different act structures. Like I like to do a 3-act structure with a tag. Like that's my that's what I tend to do. So it's it was very helpful.
Yeah, and if I remember from my screenwriting class, like the three, I know in traditional, like in filmmaking at least, it takes about a half hour for like the thing to happen, and then the inciting action to happen, and then you have all the fun stuff, and then you have the like conclusion to where the characters end up by the end of it. So that makes a lot of sense, and that's such a great way to look at it, because I'm sure there's plenty of seasons of TV where it seems like they maybe didn't quite know where they were going to end up.
Yeah, and so that's what's so interesting about TV, and what I feel like British TV does really well is they're like, cool, we're going to have 2 seasons, that's it, this is the exact storyline, okay, we're done. Whereas American TV is like, are we going to get to 5 seasons so that we can go to syndication? I don't know. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Are they going to get together? They're not going to, they're together, now they're apart again. And it has that like whole like, oh my God, like, because you have to like string people along the dramatic element that like,
you got to keep them. You got to give them
keep
something.
People watching. It's like you have to make everything a soap opera, sort of.
Oh yeah, and some of my favorite.
We just have like funny soap operas and serious soap operas. That's all we have now. And reality TV soap operas.
And reality TV soap operas, or cop procedurals, or
those are the
hospital.
only ones that are like truly the encapsulated. Like you can watch one episode.
Yeah.
And then be fine. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, like
you don't have to know what's going on with everyone.
I know exactly what you mean. Like you can drop in at any time and not be lost. Whereas if I was to try to describe the plot of my favorite anime to you right now, you would not be able to be invested unless you watched the first season, watched the second season, watched the movie that came out before the current season. Like because there's so many different story arcs that are kind of connected. That's one thing about British TV that drives me nuts. They'll just do the 12 episodes of something and they're great, but then they leave you wanting more.
Yeah. They're like, which is always the way to go, right? You're like, you don't want to be the last one at the party. You have to leave while people are like, oh no, stay. Like, that's what British TV is doing. They're like, no, we did it. We're perfect.
Yeah.
And now it's done. Okay.
Yeah. Now we're gonna move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
This is good because I'm gonna after I turn the microphone off, I'm gonna run an idea by you because I think it's gold.
Okay.
That's excellent. I imagine you're gonna get something produced in the next few years because I follow you on Twitter, and I've again been tangentially in the trenches with you, I think, figuratively and literally for a number of years. And I think you and so many of my peers, at least, we're all hitting that point where the diminishing returns of doing 3 open mics a night is starting to seep in.
eat away at you from the inside out.
That, and then also there's a point of like where you've put in enough reps at the gym where you're like, okay, I'm going to start working smarter instead of harder, and still work hard, but work in a different way.
Yeah.
So that's the dream TV showrunner, if you think eventually.
I would love to have it. Yeah, I have a couple shows that I think could be produced.
Excellent.
A couple show ideas, so I'm gonna keep cranking those out. Trying to like send them to people that have eyes that can send them to other eyes that will look at them and be like, yes, let's make this. So yeah, that's it. That's the goal.
Excellent. I think you're going to get there. And if your casting breakdown has any tall white guys who come in and say silly, stupid things on occasion, let me know when the auditions are.
I will. I definitely will.
Excellent. Is there anything that we can promote before we get out here?
Yes. The last day of this month, I have a stand-up show I'm hosting at Don Poncho's in Williamsburg.
Fantastic. So that's February.
Is December.
It's a leave.
That was amazing. So February 28th. Yes, it's a Thursday. It's the last day of the month. It's gonna be a great show at a Mexican restaurant called Don Poncho's.
Excellent. That's my other thing I'm going to start doing is I don't love hanging out in bars so much. I'm going to start just, if I run a stand-up show again, I'm going to find a place I like to be in. Like I'd love to do a show in a record store and then like figure out some deal where if you come to the show and wait and stay through the show, you get a discount only for like 15 minutes. Like
you get a 15-minute discount?
Yeah. Basically turn a comedy show into my own like hit version of the Kmart Blue Light special.
Nice. But only for vintage records.
Exactly.
You know your audience.
I try. Again, I'm just looking for someone to be a friend of my band.
Yes. Well, I'm retroactively a friend of your band. Can I be grandfathered in?
Absolutely. And if I start another band, first friend.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I appreciate it. I know this took a really long time to set up. I'm glad we finally got it done. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, folks, that's our show for the week. That was an interesting conversation. I did not know a lot of that stuff about Ashley Bez, so that was fun to hear some of that stuff, and I hope that I get to work with her in the future because she's talented and I think she's going to do cool things. As always, if you enjoyed the show, you can leave us a rating on iTunes or add us to your favorites list on Stitcher. That helps boost the visibility of the show, and the fact that if you would want to do that, I'd be very grateful. So thank you guys very much for listening. You can follow me on Twitter at Comic Will Carey, and you can follow Ashley on Twitter at Bez on Twitter. She's trying to get to 20,000 followers. So if you like laughing, she's a good follow, and let's get that number to 20,000. And you can also follow the podcast on Twitter at AwesomeDPod. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you next week between Awesome and Disaster. Take care, everyone.